because we're talking about goddess. So another Tantra teaching is that which takes you away from God will be your path back to God. And so because my early life was so rife with body invasion, that it was through my body and the assault on my body, I was taken away from God, that it must be through my body that I get back to God or goddess. And so that is the truth, and, like kind of as a baseline truth, but it is also, my body has been my salvation.
Welcome to Feed Your Wild, an immersive journey to help you remember your own medicine and awaken your intuitive healing gifts. I'm Venessa Rodriguez, and join us for heart-centered, real conversations exploring intuition and spirituality, health and wellness, astrology, herbalism, and nature-based practices that will transform your health and life. Our mission is to inspire, empower you, and help you expand your spiritual and intuitive connection to its fullest expression so that we can build a more beautiful world together. Get ready to feed all parts of your wild self. Welcome back to the Feed Your Wild podcast. I'm your host, Venessa Rodriguez, Intuitive Nourishment Guide. In this episode and every episode, this interview is part of a mini-series that I've been doing called Riding the Chariot. Real and raw stories from intuitive healers and clients and graduates of my mentorship spaces. And today we are speaking with Tuesday Rivera, who I've had the pleasure of working with in a one-on-one private Akashic mentorship. And I'm really delighted to bring her and her work to the podcast. Finding herself at a crossroads in her 40s, Tuesday was faced with a choice. Continue traveling down the, quote, safe and conventional path, or leaving it behind, shedding the skin of who she was to venture toward an expanded version of herself, one that was more aligned, yet beyond the veil of knowing. If you're listening to this podcast, I know you have come to this kind of crossroads in your life, and maybe even more than once. Whether you took the leap or not, it points to a perennial truth that persists and is always available. That your truest essence, the highest expression of your soul self, is beckoning you in every moment. Call it fate, soul alignment, quantum jumping, divine providence. The point is that there's always the opportunity to choose your truth. And in so doing, you trailblaze a path to a version of yourself that is often beyond your imagination and yet deeply familiar by heart. Tuesday Rivera is a transformational coach, guide, and facilitator who is no stranger to trailblazing, having left the fields of traditional social service provision and academics to become a new kind of change maker, partnering with clients around the world. Tuesday shares about her transition from a strategic consultant and suburban mom to a spiritual seeker, intuitive guide, and an oracle of the goddess. Now, that last little bit, I admit I added in because honestly, Tuesday would be too modest to make such a claim. Yet, having worked with her deeply for some time now, I can assure you that goddess runs through her veins. Bit by the bug, literally, Tuesday tells of her emergence from a traumatic early childhood mired in violation and denigration into a creative, heart-led path of self-discovery, guided by her body wisdom and inner compass, and illuminated by the divine feminine. Drawing upon her own background as a psychotherapist, a set of devotional practices, the Akashic Records, and dance and movement, Tuesday now supports others on their journeys of self-reflection, navigating their own personal and professional transformations. Tuesday shares really helpful frameworks for moving through these spaces and phases of our lives. How the Akashic Records are supporting her in the evolution of her work and the development of her beautiful offerings. And her pragmatic and witty style really brings a much needed groundedness to topics that can often feel lofty or nebulous, such as devotion to Goddess and intuitive transformational work. Her compelling story serves as a testament to the profound personal and professional growth that follows when we courageously follow the breadcrumbs of our own intuition, embracing both the light and the shadows of our journeys back home to ourself. Before we get into this deeply nourishing and juicy conversation, I want to share that I have a spot open for my private one-on-one Akashic mentorship for healers. It's called Awaken the Oracle Within. In our conversation, you'll hear a little bit about the kind of support and what you might get out of a mentorship with me, as Tuesday so kindly shares. And in this particular mentorship, we will tap into your next level intuitive gifts and bring clarity to what it is that you are here to do with those gifts as a healer. This is a bespoke mentorship, so it really is customized to each individual where you are at. We dive into your Akashic Records, of course, and you have me in your back pocket the entire time. You get to choose the length from 3, 6, or 12 months working together. And in addition to initiating into the Akashic Records and learning to read for others, you'll also gain access to a content portal of powerful transmissions and teachings to anchor your next level of growth and frequency. This is for the practitioners, the healers, the coaches, light workers, mystics. If you've been on a path of awakening for some time, you're ready to take it to the next level and really step out as a practitioner and healer, but in your own way, so that you can be of service in the highest expression of the word in a way that is truly fulfilling for both yourself and for those that you help. This is the mentorship program for you. You can go to wildlyrooted.com/oracle, click the link in the show notes. You can also reach out to me directly. I'm on Instagram. My handle is @wildlyrooted, and send me a DM. We have something else that's very special for you. If you crave to be held in a supportive sisterhood of like-hearted women, you know you are here to light up the world, and you're ready to embody your own brilliance, explore and embrace the sacred feminine, and initiate into a path of luminosity. Tuesday has a powerful invitation for you, so stay tuned. Let's get into our conversation already. Here we go with Tuesday Rivera. Today, I am feeling all the butterflies actually come up to sit with not just a client, but I really do feel like a dear soul sister in a way, Tuesday Rivera. It has been such a joy and a pleasure to be a guide or a partner in this journey with you. And I'm really excited to share all that's going to come through today. So I'll go ahead and introduce you with your bio. Tuesday is a coach, guide, and facilitator who left the fields of traditional social service provision and academics to become a new kind of change maker, partnering with clients around the world. Tuesday's work is featured in the book Walk Out, Walk On by Margaret Wheatley and Deborah Fries, and she is known internationally for her strategic work with organizations and communities engaged in systemic change. Though known for her organizational and systemic work, Tuesday's most recent efforts focus on a different scale, coaching individuals and convening cohorts of women who are navigating their own personal and professional transformations. Tuesday is a natural guide for others, drawing upon her own background as a psychotherapist, a set of devotional practices, the Akashic Records, and dance and movement to support others on their journeys of self-reflection, insight, and taking action. Trained as a psychotherapist with a BA in individual family studies and a master's in social work, Tuesday is an expert in transformational work and is committed to helping her clients discover their own magic as they meet themselves in meaningful ways, reclaim parts of themselves, and boldly embody what's next for them. Tuesday, the biggest, warmest, hardest, heart-filled welcome to the Future World podcast.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me. And I know we're going to go lots of different places, but I just want to start by saying, oh my goodness, Venessa, like the first I know of you was through this podcast. And so it just feels slightly surreal to hear you introducing me, because I remember listening to you give the collective readings and just thinking, how does she know how to talk to me? Like she's reading for me. And someday I would like to talk with this person. And now I've been in your mentorship program and you just called me a soul sister. And I'm just like, oh, how is this my life? I'm just having a moment of like, wow, is life good? Right? It's just kind of a fucking miracle. Do you put an E on your podcast? I guess.
Yes, I do. And we can swear to the high heavens.
Okay.
If they want us to. Yeah. It's all perfect. It's all perfect. Well, I'm feeling very humbled. That was incredible. Thank you, Tuesday. This is going to be a love fest, clearly, today.
Yeah.
In this interview. Yeah. So as everyone knows, with this particular episode, this is part of the Chariot series that I'm doing. And one of the biggest reasons why I was really called to do this set of episodes in these series is because, well, first of all, I work with the most incredible, powerful, badass women ever, as everybody can hear, right? But also because your journey is also everyone's journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel it's so important for people to connect with others that, you said, which I mean, truly humbled me, but you said like listening to the podcast and you can imagine like being connected or even being on the podcast. And that's what I want to share is that like, we all are journeying through these really big things and we have so much to share. And that's what this podcast and this work is really all about, right? It's tapping into those essential gifts ourselves as intuitive guides for ourselves and for others, and to begin to step out, right? Step out of the closets, whatever closets we've been hanging out in.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yes. So clearly you have done, I mean, there's so much work. You truly are. When you say that you are an expert in transformation, like I could stand behind that 100%. There is a lot that goes, I think it's thrown around a lot, this term transformation, right? Like transformational work. What does that really mean? And I feel like one who is an expert in transformational work is someone that has actually embodied transformational work. Like you cannot be an expert in it. You can't study yourself into expertise with this, right?
No, you certainly can't. And it would be a pretty heady thing if you could. And maybe you could bottle it and sell it. But my experience is like, you have to go through it. Like there's just no other way. If you want to support people to go through their own transformation, you have to be willing and have gone through your own. And that can be voluntary. I can talk about some of my own like career transformation, which was really voluntary, or it can be involuntary. Things happen to you that cause you to transform, whether you like it or not, some of those dark nights of the soul. Or it can be a combination, right? But you really do have to go through it to kind of know the path that you're walking people through.
100%. So with that, I would love for you to sort of paint us a picture. Well, first, how you decided to come into my fold, right? And like the connection there. But ultimately, I really want to dive into your story, Tuesday, because we're talking about transformation. And I want folks to just hear little bits of maybe the essential pieces for you that really matter and as it pertains to the work you're doing today. So I'll leave it to you where you want to start with this.
Great. Well, I just feel like I'd like to start how I came into your fold. I think that feels like the right place to start. And then we can talk some more about my own personal transformation. But when I think about your podcast, Vanessa, I think about running through the woods that I run in several times a week and hearing your voice on this podcast and really like the collective Akashic readings. And I need you to understand when I started listening to your podcast, I have been a consultant for all of my life. I was just out of a 21-year marriage I had ended and was kind of having a relationship, a new emerging budding relationship with Goddess. I felt like I was this person, Tuesday, suburban mom and wife. And I just started to feel like things were shifting. And so I would listen to your podcast and be like, I don't know that I really understand this world, but boy, am I getting something from it. And I would run, right? So, like, you were in my ears and moving through my body, right? So, that's so important to me. And we can talk about my own experience of like working with my body, which has been since I was 5 years old. And I was like, that is something. I don't know how to describe it, but it's important and meaningful. And I'm just going to keep listening. And then I started to feel a little in the navigating transformation class we do, we talk about kind of 4 movements of transformation. And the first is like a shimmer, like where you just like a little shimmer if you're lucky, a tremble if you're not, a shake if you're like you're really going into it. And I just started to feel like a little like shake around my current work. And and one of the things, the second movement after the shimmer or the shake or the tremble is to kind of lose yourself, right? To kind of let go of old ideas of yourself. And so this idea of myself as a highly strategic person, like super productive, like let's get work done, right? Like I'm never going to leave that, but I had to let go of some of it, right? And so into that space of letting some of that go, the third is kind of finding yourself when we talk about like little signals, looking for little signals. And I found like your podcast was a little signal. I was like, oh, there's something there. There's really something there. And so I went online. I'm like, maybe I'll have a reading. Maybe that's the something that's there as I'm kind of, and maybe I'll have a reading. You were on maternity leave, which of course I kind of knew because of your podcast, but you were on maternity leave, weren't taking clients. And I'm like, okay, what can I do in the meantime? Well, I'm going to look maybe for someone I could do a reading with, but I just was kind of like, I don't think so. I think I'm supposed to do a reading with Venessa, but she's not available. So let me just look around. And I found another person who did a training. And I was like, well, I don't want to be trained on the records. I just want a reading. But she's like, before you do my training, I have you read this book. And I'm like, I can read a book. That's what I can do. That's what, Vanessa's not available. I can read a book. So I read a book, and in the book, she suggests, it was Linda Howe's book, right? And she suggests like reading for yourself and then reading for other people. And so I like just kind of like tentatively started doing that. And holy moly, things started happening. And I started having experiences, and I was reading for other people and they were having experiences. And I was like, I actually need some guidance. You know what I mean? I don't actually think I should be doing this just on my own and following that path, although that's kind of the story of my life is like, oh, look at that path. Let me just try that. I think I need some support here. And then your mentorship opened up. It was just like synchronicity. It just opened up and I was like, well, that's what I think I need to do. And so I went into your mentorship thinking I was going to learn how to read the records and get support on how to read the records, which sure, that happened, but it is so much more. It just kind of blew me wide open to what was next for me. And so again, I just want to say to people, like, I'm not a person who can always see the big vision. Like, oh, in a year, I'm going to be here and I'm going to be doing this thing. What I can see is the small signals and follow them. And this was kind of like one of them. And so here we are. I'm on your podcast.
Oh my
What?
goodness. Here we are. Well, I just want to, before we get into your personal story, because I want to highlight how I actually think now, especially, nobody can really see a year beyond like the
Yeah.
next 3 months. I don't know. It just seems like we are coming to a time where it's just really called to be totally in the present and to attune ourselves to the signal, because that's what's most true. That's what's most available. And that's what's really the hardest, I think, to do, because we can dream and like, right? But to like be so present, to really acknowledge what's going on in the now is really hard for a lot of people. So I just want to highlight that and say that skill that you have is actually like, I think, really imperative for where all of us are and where you're going to as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now moving into the, like, okay, you mentioned you had ended this long relationship, your marriage, you started shifting things at work. What do you think was at the crux, or what is currently, because it's not like it's going away, that shape that you were experiencing, right? Like that initial thing, because, maybe my readings were a signal, but there was something there all along. So what is that about, and where is that coming from for you?
Yeah, I think that I have always, and I can trace it back to my childhood and I will in just a moment, but I have always been interested in a pursuit of myself, like kind of capital S self. Like that's always been something that I'm deeply interested in and concerned with, wanting to both know myself and then express what is known. So that particular point, ending my marriage of so long, I got married so young, and for all the reasons one gets married at 23, love and safety and security and all those things kind of in a ball. And then I got to my 40s and I was like, I don't need to be safe. I don't actually need to be safe. What I need is like to go in pursuit of myself and to be like all of who I am. And so that kind of movement toward, I think some in psychological circles they would call it self-actualization, or to understanding, beginning to peek and see my own divinity and be like, oh, how do I go after that? What is the life that leads me closer to myself and closer to the divine? Was really kind of that particular movement, but I can trace it back. I have a pretty significant and severe history of childhood sexual trauma. And when I talked about the transformations that happen, even if you don't want them to, like that in my life is often what I'm referring to, right? As a child, if your very self is violated, although your self with a capital S is inviolable, so just to be clear. But like when all of your boundaries are breached, your barriers are taken, you are completely overcome and overwhelmed and annihilated, you have no choice but to rest back in the self. And so, in some ways, from my very earliest ages, what I knew was I had me and that there was something there worth protecting and knowing and cultivating. And I can remember, and this is not a story of abuse, but when I was young, probably 3 or 4, I remember sitting on the back kind of concrete porch. We lived in public housing. I think they called them the projects then. I don't know if they still do, but we lived in the projects. It was like kind of rows of this public housing. And I was sitting on the back porch and I looked over and I saw a big black furry spider. And I thought to myself, and I just remember this clear as day. I just thought to myself, well, that spider is going to bite me. And so the spider walked over, landed on my foot, bit me, and then walked away. And I was just like, yeah, I knew it was going to happen. And so I went inside and I said, of course, mommy, spider bit me, spider bit me. And she's like, what are you talking about? She knew something had happened because I looked like I had a cigarette burn on my foot. And I was like, I told you what happened. A spider bit me. And I knew it was going to bite me. And this story has just stayed with me my whole life. I still have the scar on my foot for a couple of reasons. One is goddess comes a spider often, but also, right. But I didn't know that or 3 or 4. But also, it was just like this knowing I had. And there was a sense that no matter what anyone else said, because when you live in a toxic, chaotic, torturous early environment, you're not getting a lot of affirmation of your truth. So I had to turn to my own truth. And so that kind of like compass, I think I was fortunate enough to have a orientation toward my own compass. That's something I've had since my youngest age. And so then that is like, okay, we moved out of that kind of hard childhood into what is it I want to do with my life? How do I want my life to be? And so that kind of movement has really been at the root of all of the transformation I've been in, personally, professionally. What is it I want? What is that compass telling me? And how do I listen to it even better, even more?
There are so many things with this. Oh my goodness, Tuesday. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing your truth and being vulnerable. And I think that's really important for people, as you know, obviously, right, in doing this work. The spider, the significance of this event, so many layers as you're touching on and reflecting of like the invitation for you to witness and trust your knowing. And at such an early age, and carrying that with you as a scar to this day. And of course, obviously, with Spider Woman, goddess, obviously, pun intended. How is that woven into your life and your work in whatever ways, are really coming to you right now? Because I'm sure in a myriad of ways, an infinite number of different ways, especially with that piece around trust in your own knowing and goddess, bringing those two together. Can you illuminate us?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's interesting in a childhood that was so filled with trauma, where a lot of what happens in that kind of childhood is you don't remember a lot, that is a key memory for me. Right. And it just always stayed with me um, as a way of like, Tuesday, your truth. Other people might not know it, get it, see it, but you actually know it. So like it's kind of been like almost like a emblematic story for me. And then when I found, and Tantra teachings, often they say that goddess is a spider who weaves the world from her body and then lives in it. And I was like, oh, wow. I didn't understand that as a being claimed by goddess at 3 or 4. But now I absolutely understand that. It's a claiming of me. And so I think most of my early life and even my early career, it was always a sense of a voice, a knowing, a certainty that wasn't that I was never wrong about things, but like kind of about my safety or about what was for me or what wasn't for me. Just was a pretty clear drumbeat. And so that's like how I think about kind of goddess being in my life in the early, before I had language for it. So I was raised Catholic. We weren't particularly devout. My mother's Irish Catholic. My father's African American, but didn't have a faith. So kind of, I was kind of like, we were kind of cultural Catholics, but I was Black. And so I didn't have a place to land goddess in any way. But when I was 19 years old, I think 19 or 20, I started working in my undergrad. I had to do a practicum and I started working at a rape crisis program. That's what they called them at that point. And so it was all women. And they were just helping each other out, convening groups, doing like this great hospital advocacy work, legal advocacy work. And I was like, I am home. And so I've always found the company of women to be a place where I find myself, which I think is very, very much goddess active in my life, although I would not have known to say that. And so I think in a lot of ways, until my 40s, there wasn't an active understanding of goddess and her ways in my life. But as I look back and knowing what I know now, I can just see like always with women, always with friends, always like seeking goodness. Like I think that there's something else there that feels kind of pretty important to my life around kind of seeking the light, seeking goodness without any underestimation of the dark. That like I have the childhood I have the issues I need to work through that I do. There's not a rejection of any of the dark, but a real seeking of the light and the light in me and the light in others, right? I started as a social worker. I started out as an activist. Like, how do we make these systems and structures different for people? How do we make this better for folks? And then in my early 40s, I had then just a very explicit experience with goddess where she came to me and kind of showed herself to me. And then that started a practice of devotion. And from there, I would say it's really been about like, oh, how do I, and just with the spider metaphor, like, how do I weave what I'm learning about goddess? How do I weave what I'm learning about my own self? How do I weave the Akashic Records? How do I weave some of this strategy work I'm doing? How do I begin to like weave all of this together into a future for myself, but also into a future for others? Because my whole life has been working at different levels of scale. Like, what is my own personal work? What is working with one other person? What is working with groups? What is working with communities? What is working on big systems? And I have in the past felt a bit of angst about that. And I would say probably even in the last 2 or 3 years, I felt a bit of angst about that. Like, how do I do this big systems work? And I'm really drawn to coaching people. And I finally just landed on, well, I don't know. Like you said, I don't know what's going to happen next year. I'm just going to follow the signal. But also, Goddess works at the scale of me and the planet every moment of the day. I can certainly work at a couple different scales. You know what I mean? I can certainly weave those things together and figure it out. So that's kind of like where I am. And I'm like actively weaving in an explicit goddess practice now to my coaching and my work. And
I would like for those who maybe are new to Goddess and like sort of this talk and understanding around devotion. And obviously, there are like thousands of years traditions in a lot of different cultures with this. But for those who are maybe just new, just a short orientation to maybe what this looks like in your life or what this means to have devotion practice to Goddess.
absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. And I also want to just say to you, Venessa, like, no one is more surprised than me that this is the conversation we're having. Like, I just like, so if people are listening and they're like, what is this woman talking about? Yeah, I get it. Cause that would have been me 5 years ago. I would have had like a kind of quiet little devotional practice, but I would not have been talking about goddess. And in fact, I might have even been a little side eye. You know what I mean? Like this divine feminine thing. And it kind of can feel real fluffy. And for me, just to be perfectly honest, it can feel like something that's kind of the purview of like white women who have a lot of privilege to kind of like go to these workshops and think about goddess all day. But that's actually not, obviously. She's for everyone. I'm a Black woman. I'm a biracial woman. So, what it means for me at its most simple level is that I think two things to say. There is divinity in the world. Like I make a stand for that. There is the divine, however you want to conceive that. And that a face of the divine is feminine. For me, I have a goddess practice, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But for me, it is simply a recognition that the divine has also, if you'd like, an energetic that is feminine, that is in the body, that is circular or spiralic, that is generative, that is creative, that is soft as well as strong, that is sensual and sensuous, that is of the earth, like Mama Earth, right? As well as the cosmic sky. So it's simply an acknowledgement of that. And it can look, I mean, people talk about Mother Nature, they talk about Pachamama, there's all of it is in my cosmology, goddess is everything. So, like, can't get away, like, whatever you call it, it's her. And we say that goddess is a diamond with 1,000 facets, and you can enter into any of them. So, if you have a sense when you look out your window that there might be something feminine and divine going on, like, at its simple level to me, that's goddess. Call it what you want. Think of it as an archetype. Think of it as a story to help you understand. I'm not interested in converting people. I'm interested in helping them find their light. And so there is within that feminine light. Oh, let me say it a little different way. We all are of that feminine light. So we have that spark, that inviolable spark in us. That's what I'm talking about. Like, so whether you see it as someone to be devoted to and worship, and I'll talk about my own practices, fine. If you simply see it as knowing your own divinity and goodness, knowing yourself as imperfect, sometimes really messy, but there is a spark that is inviolable, and that to me is goddess. And that's what I'm seeking to help people get in touch with, because from that spark, then do you, whatever it looks like, then do you. So that's the kind of at a base level. I try not to be too dogmatic about it. I have a particular tradition and a particular goddess that I am devoted to, although I have relationships with multiple goddesses. I mentioned Tantra early. I mean, I could say more about it, but the practices are things like prayer, like dancing, like chanting, like reading sacred texts, things that people of all cultures all over the world do. I just happen to do it with a specific focus on the divine feminine and allow her to reveal herself to me. Yeah, I think maybe I'll stop there and see if you have another question, or I don't know if I answered all of your questions.
Oh, that was so lovely. And I think even for those that are familiar with Goddess or have a relationship with Goddess, I think just the reflection of that, the truth of that is also incredibly supportive and healing to receive. And what comes to mind now for me is, it comes back to the spider. It comes back to it biting you on the toe, and how the body weaves in with all of this too. Like, it was not just that you witnessed the spider and it came up to you and kind of like had a moment with you. It bit you, and that stuck with you, like literally and always physically, for the rest of your life, for till now. And so how does the body piece weave in for you in all of this? And then, of course, I want to then converge this into the work that you're doing today, because I think it obviously is such a beautiful expression of your lived experience and your wisdom and Goddess running through you.
Oh, the body is like, I don't even know. Like, I just feel I have so much to say, Vanessa. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I don't think I've said this yet. If I have, just rein me in. So just because we're talking about Goddess, so another Tantra teaching is that which takes you away from God will be your path back to God. And so, because my early life was so rife with body invasion, that it was through my body and the assault on my body, I was taken away from God, that it must be through my body that I get back to God or Goddess. And so that is the truth. And, like, kind of as a baseline truth. But it is also, my body has been my salvation. Of course, it has been the place where I was hurt the most. When I was 5, my mother got me into gymnastics, which is like the best thing. I don't even know who I would be if she hadn't got me into gymnastics. And I became a serious competitive gymnast. Because, Vanessa, you have this experience now. I like kind of don't do anything halfway. So I like went all in. I became a gymnast and went all in. But what that did is, even through massive violation of my body, I had to come back to my body several times a week for several hours a day. I had to like balance on that 3 7/8 inch beam. I had to know where my body was as it was landing in space. I got to express through music and dancing on the floor. I got to swing around the bars and like feel that freedom of like just the body being in its full expression, not without risk, which I think is a key part of it. I've never known a life without risk. That is what it is to be human. And so as a gymnast, you're just like throwing your body all over the place, and it is glorious. And sometimes you get hurt. I blew out my knee at 16 and was a career-ending injury, but like this idea of like coming back to my body has always been like really important. And so I've always done things, like I said, when I listened to your podcast, I was running, moving my body is very important to me. And then a few years ago, I found dance. And that has just also just been revelatory to like actually just be in my body in a space. And it doesn't have to be dance that is beautiful to anyone else. It is simply my being in my body and my moving. And I've heard recently some folks are beginning to say, and I feel like this is true. It's like kind of like that truth you run. It's like, is that true? You run it through your body and like, yeah, it feels true. That meditation, which is an incredibly important practice, is more of a masculine practice of devotion. And that dance is the feminine counterpart to that. So I can really find that. So it becomes like not only a way for me to connect with my body, but like my body is not separate. If she is everything, then my body's not separate from that. So it becomes another way that I connect with her. And so that's part of what I bring into my offerings is like, it's wonderful to understand things. And it's amazing to have guided journeys where like we go someplace else and access other wisdom, or be in the records where we enter another realm. And there is a place for like being right here in this body. And so that's like a regular ongoing part of the practice for me and for the folks I work with, for sure.
What I love about this too is that along with us, you're weaving in now work with the Akashic Records and intuitive work, which a lot of people, I think, when they think of Akashic Records, if they don't have, lived experience working with the Akashic Records, although I feel like all of us are in the records, right? We all journey into the records. But whether we do so consciously or with intention or not, a lot of folks, I think, might think about the Akashic Records and think that it's somewhere out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's somewhere that is, you have to travel to. It's somewhere that is not accessible unless you like leave your body even. And so I'm wondering about your experience working with the Akashic Records and yeah, your experience in like how that has integrated into your work and body work, like if there's anything there that you feel called to share.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a couple of things. I just really appreciate your saying that many of us have been in the records even before we kind of know how to call it in or to be kind of like formally in a formal relationship, right? That is absolutely my experience. And I find that when I enter, well, two things. One is often if I'm reading for myself, when I enter the records, my body starts to move. Like my body just begins to, I don't know, is the word we want to use channel? I'm not sure, but it's moving and it's like gathering things and it's not movement that I'm directing. So it's like my body starts to move as I enter the records often. And then what I experience in the records often is very body focused. I might have sensations. Certainly what I see when I'm in the records. It's funny language, right? Like it's just funny language how to describe it as often like about my body. I may be twisting and turning. I may be moving through something. I might be sinking in. But like there's often like a body component or sensation. So in the records, I feel physical movement. I tell my clients when I read their records to tell me if they're having physical sensation. And often they do and are. And then we just ask about that. And it leads to information for them. I'm sure you have this experience. And then when I'm done, it is like energetically, my body has had a bath. It's just like, what a frequency to be in with this physical self. So, like, every part of the records, as I go in, while I'm in, after, it feels like a very physical experience. It feels like a very physical experience to me. So, they don't feel separate. It feels like it all comes together. Like in this particular incarnation, I've got this particular body. And so it's all coming in and through there. And when you've read my records in our mentorship, like you have talked about places in my brain, in my physical body. It's just not separate. And I can feel the truth of that as you say it. I'm like, oh, right. So it's just not separate as much as we want it to be. And that feels to me to be deeply feminine. This desire not to separate and to not only ascend. It's beautiful to ascend. I'm a big fan of going up and visiting. But, I'm going up and visiting for this body. So sometimes my partner does medicine work and I support him in that sometimes. And I invite the women to dance before we do that work, before we go into medicine realms, because it's just like, I always say to them, like, the more in your body, the farther you can go out.
I think that even our conversation about this, in some ways, and none of us need permission, but I feel like sometimes we think we do. And I feel like it can perhaps provide the opportunity for others to give themselves that permission to receive it in their body, which I feel like can be scary sometimes for people, right? Like to experience things in their body, to feel like the involuntary movement, right, that you were talking about, especially if we're not fully connected with our bodies, that can be challenging. I'm just curious for that population, is there anything that you feel can help sort of allow them to feel a little bit more comfort with that in your own personal experience?
Yeah, that's really a great question because I can imagine that some people listening have had really hard experiences in their body. And a lot of their seeking relief is to leave their bodies. And I know that place. And so, so then you hear me talking about, oh, dancing and I move and you're like, what the what? And so I think that part of that is honoring that. It's just really honoring. There may have been times you had to leave your body. It might be more comfortable for you to not be in your body and to come back is scary. And like to just then like patience, like there's no place to get to. Like if you can just breathe and feel the air feels like going into your lungs. If you can just, like right now, I'm holding a serpentina stone that just like if you can hold something in your hand and really feel it. If you can, there's like a simple exercise of like, what are 5 things you see, 4 things you hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you smell, and 1 thing you taste. Like at any given moment, like that, like just identifying that like brings you into your body. So I know I'm talking about, oh, dancing and like, like I'm so excited and I love body stuff, but it just can start really simple. And even my dancing started very, very simply. It started alone, number 1. Most of the
Mm.
time when I dance, I mean, when I'm dancing with the group and bringing people into dance, I dance in front of people, but most of the time it is just me. It's not even my partner. It's like, yeah, out of the room, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I am now going to be with music and see how my body wants to move. And sometimes that means I don't ever get up off the floor, or I'm working on bringing a piece of that music. I tune in and I think, oh, I've got kind of like a crick in my neck. How would I move to bring the music into my neck? Or like, it's not beautiful. I just want to say, like, if you please never, like, sometimes I'm like, please never have anyone watch or see what this is happening. Like when I'm just dancing for
Yeah.
myself. And then also just frankly, when it's like walking, like, I don't
Mhm.
know, like just walking, feeling your feet along the ground, going out into the woods. Sometimes a practice I do because I'm so in love with my woods that I'm just in awe at how much it gives me. You know what I mean? Like to go to this place for my daughter's 15. So I've been going like as often as I can for the past 13 years. And I just think, oh, this place gives me so much. So how do I give back? How do I give back? How do I give back? Okay. So I'm just going to like walk and like try to infuse love into my footsteps. So I'm just like giving her a little bit of love. It doesn't have to be like full on, I'm going to inhabit my body now. It can be, I can just be in my feet as I walk.
These are so great. So great. And also, it's just sort of reminding me of all of the accessible ways that are already available to us to connect with our bodies even more in a conscious way, even just like on a day to day basis, which I think is so important, right? Especially when we do work with the records, it's so important to be embodied and to be grounded too in that.
Yeah. I'm sure, well, you probably wouldn't say anything because it's probably confidential for you, but I can say it because it's me. So I remember like early in our mentorship, like coming to I think as a pretty embodied person saying, I don't know how to get ground. I am in the records every day and whoa, I could just float away some days. And that's not me. I'm a Taurus. I'm a, I'm a pretty I'm a pretty straightforward person. I cursed in the first 30 seconds of this podcast. Like I'm just not like an airy, flighty person, but going into the records to learn how to be in them, like I really felt like I was taking off and I needed some support. Thank goodness I had the mentorship around like, how do I come back? What does that mean? How do I actually engage in this really highly beautiful, healing, spiritual, different energy and not lose my ground?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, okay, so there's a lot more that I want to get into, and I realize we're already like at almost like 5 minutes. I just want to check in with you. I have the time. Do you have the time a little bit longer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
Yep,
30 more minutes
I do.
potentially? Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yay.
I
Okay,
do.
okay, so let's keep going and dive in. So speaking of that mentorship and sort of your experience and beginning of that, I think a lot of people, well, obviously, when my clients are coming onto the podcast, we've already been established a relationship, have been working together for quite some time. I'm not bringing somebody in just the beginning of their journey. That's really important. And so what they're hearing and what they're getting kind of an insight into is sort of like where you are further along, maybe in your journey, or at least in our work together.
Absolutely.
I'm curious if you can paint a little picture of what it was like initially to step into not just working with me, but like in this work in general, working with the records and where you are and how that has sort of evolved over time into the offerings that you now have, because I want to get to those. I want to talk about them. Give us a little bit of that arc, if you will.
Great. Great. So I think what I might say is while I have always believed in my compass, understood my own intuition as a key to my own life, I've been pretty resistant to to what some folks might call woo-woo or kind of superficial spirituality. Or in my strategic work, I developed a model actually called shared work. Like, what are we going to do together? Like, let's like land this and get it on the ground. And so again, the goddess appearing to me and having a relationship was a big surprise and a little bit of like, oh, but like, what are you going to do? I mean, I suppose you could say, no, thank you, goddess. I'm not really interested, but that doesn't, I mean, like, look, then she's going to come drag you by your hair and you're going to be hers.
Right.
So
Totally.
yeah, so you better go with it. And so I feel like it was kind of the same with this. It was like I would hear your podcast and then be like, that's great. I'm getting wisdom. I don't understand it. I don't even know if I really believe it. Maybe she's just a super smart chick, but that's good enough. Like, that's good enough. I can listen to that. It was almost like a really slow opening of a door, really slow opening of the door. And then when I started reading for myself, and it was so powerful, like, I want to do what works. And so it was like, okay, so then like, oh, there's something here. So I want to do what works. And actually, I want to tell you, my therapist said to me a couple months into working with you, she was like, you got to tell me about these records. There's like something happening for you. And I was like, yes, yes, there is. So it's not just me. It's me, my partner, my therapist, hopefully my kids. Well, I don't know. They don't really, they're 15 and 20. They're not so interested in what's happening with mom. But,
Right.
and then when I started reading for other people and they started having, that's when I was like, okay, all right, there's something here that I might feel resistant to, but why would I resist? Like, kind of like, what is that habit of like, no, I'm this, not this, right? So it's like, but it's a shift
Mhm.
in identity. Like, that's part of it. It's a real shift in identity. I've walked through the world in this way, and I'm going to walk through in another way. So it was his own transformation. And so then when I started the mentorship with you with the idea of like, these records, it's important. Something's happening. There's someone who knows more than me about it. Let me kind of seek that out. That was kind of, like I said, the first level. And then as we started working together, it just became revelatory personally for me, like understanding how to work with my guides, understanding how to go after myself. I said that's like been the thing, going after myself in a really different way. But then also you just brought like a whole other, this might not be exactly accurate, but it's a whole other field of practice. So you have frameworks and language and concepts and like ways to understand what was happening to me or happening with me, in the same way that when I got into goddess work, there were ways I got with a teacher and she helped me understand what was happening. And so like this, the mentorship, like both helped me understand the records and what to do, like a skill, but also like then how to work with the actual evolving transformation that I was in. And then, of course, you give resources that I could look to. I love a good set of resources. You introduced me to my soul deva, who is a scary entity that I now adore. There's just like all sorts of things that happen. And so, what I did right around the same time I decided to get into mentoring with you, I had the shimmer, the shake, the tremble that I talked about was like all of this healing you've done Tuesday. Like, of course, I use it in my daytime work all of the time, but I thought there is something else that you have to give here. There is something that helps make meaning, make sense, pulls together all these things that you're weaving that is ready. I think ready. It's ready to be offered. And so what is it? What is it? And so that's really been what the mentorship has helped me with, is like take some shape to this offering. It's not just, oh, I learned some stuff and let me turn it around. It's been actually quite a long process for me, years long, I think, of like capturing what I'm learning, thinking about it. How do I articulate it? How do I make it into an offering? And then the mentorship with you like helped me actually then take the next steps to make it into an offering. And so that's kind of where I am now, like in the mentorship with you, like, okay, I've got all of these different things, strands I'm weaving together. What is my offering? And so I've done 2 offerings of Navigating Transformation mini series, which was a 4-series workshop for women around how do they navigate transformation? Because that's what I'm in and that's what we're talking about. And so we made the distinction there. And I just love this. We made the distinction there between being in transition and being in transformation, right?
Oh, that's really juicy. That's good.
Right.
Yeah.
So just like learning with the women, because part of what I wanted to do also for me, I'm just feeling hungry for a community. And I have really good friends and loved ones and people who care about me, but not necessarily people who I can talk about the spider with or, And so I've kind of longed for some community. And so I was just like, well, so I'll build it. I'll make it happen. And so I did, with your support, I offered these Navigating Transformation mini series, did 2 classes of that. But even last August, I knew what I wanted to do, which was to launch a cohort of women, like an intensive 3-month, like, let's dive into some of this stuff cohort. And so the Navigating Transformation series were a wonderful time for me. Practice to gather women to see, did they like it? Did they want what I had to offer? I thought a group would be important. And holy moly, this group of women that I've gathered are just amazing, just amazing. And so it's kind of like all the things I wanted. Now it's like, it's kind of up to me. And I think you said that in a reading. It's like up to me to do, not in a to say it's never going to happen unless you do it, but like, actually, this is what is mine to do. And so launching this cohort, it's called the Luminosity Intensive, launches March 27th. And we're going to go in. We're going to go in. It's 3 modules, 3 weeks for the first module, and then a week kind of off, but that's an integration week. So you'll still have stuff to do. 3 weeks in the second module, and then 3 weeks in the third. And so the cascade of it is, the first part is connecting with the divine feminine. So it's like explicitly, how do you find your own divine light? Again, I'm not going to tell you, here's your goddess and you must believe this way, but it actually is like coming into your own divinity for 3 weeks in a very intentional way. Week of break. And then the second is like, because it's called the Luminosity Intensive. So we're thinking about light a lot. So the first is like finding your divine light. The second is like being with the dark. And how do we actually reclaim our whole selves? Because of course we have inviolable light, but there have been wounds that have happened. The wound is the portal is a beautiful way to kind of like say it. So we're going to turn towards some of our wounds. And that isn't, I want to be clear, I'm not going to actually like make you go into your deepest, darkest secret and like excavate it. It's going to be to your tolerance, but like turning towards some of that hard stuff. And like, how do you make sense of it? How do you want to be with it? How has it made you who you are and what's possible? And then a week of integration, and then a week off, or then 3 weeks is like, then is really about then shining that light for other folks. What does that look like? What is your call? What is your compass telling you? I think Howard Thurman talks about the call of the genuine, and like, how do we actually work with the call of the genuine, and what is yours to do? And it could be huge change, but it doesn't actually have to be. It can be like, what is the call of the genuine in you now? And how do you want to express that light in the world? And I just have a fundamental belief. This is a program for women, full circle. It's where I started in the rape crisis program, which is women helping other women. I believe that when we find our own light, whether we even want it to or not, it shines forth in the world. And so it's like, we're going to light up the world here. So let's like start with finding our own light.
Ooh. So, what's coming up for me is remembering certain points in our journey together when, just some of this was coming up. I also just have to say, clearly people are listening and they're like, wow, like Tuesday's got a lot going on. She's like, there's a lot there that is just so luminous yourself. And that is your ability to hold this container, right, and to guide people into that path of luminosity. Wait, can I just share that, like, when you submitted your application, which was a surprise because you had showed up into an open house for WIP, with the Wildly Intuitive Practitioner Pathway, so I thought you were interested in the group, and then you submitted for the mentorship, and I was like, oh, this is a pleasant surprise. You submitted your application, and then what you have shared in your application, and then, what you shared initially in our conversation, and then what I found out about you and who you are, it was like, Tuesday, you were so modest in how you present yourself, right? Like, and then of course, nobody hides with the record. You can't hide with the Akashic Records.
Right.
Because I'm tapping into your soul. And I was like, dang, this woman, who is this woman? And so I just have to share that as you're sharing your evolving body of work. I'm such an advocate of what you are channeling in and what you are putting out. And I cannot state enough to people listening and tuning in, if you are feeling like, wow, that really sounds incredible. Yeah, you have no idea who this woman is. I just have to share that.
Oh, wow.
Because I know that you're also incredibly modest and pragmatic, and really honoring where everybody's at. So I'm going to be the cheerleader over here for you on your behalf.
Oh, Vanessa, that's so touching. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And wow. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I want to just say that I've gone from, when we started like, I think I have something to offer, and feeling a little cringy and like, I don't know, this is not how people know me in the world. And they have this other experience of me. And like, who am I to like change what I'm doing? Through the mentorship and through the work in the records, like just to be like, oh, friends, I'm throwing a great party. Like, come to this party. It's going to be amazing. And that's been certainly about my work from you. And I just, yeah, if you're feeling moved to join us, please do. I think it's going to be quite remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's also very timely. I mean, I can talk about astrology all day, but astrologically, and even with the seasons, right, with the equinox coming in, and there is this opening. There's this opening. And I also feel, even outside of our container and our work together, divine feminine and goddess coming in really strong, really strong in all places. And so I really encourage you, if you're listening and you're like, something, I have that shimmer, I got that shake, I got that, to explore, just simply explore, follow those signals, just as Tuesday has shared. And I promise you, something will open up for you. And it's really important that it does. So I'm really excited about this for you, Tuesday, and I'm excited for everybody to check your work out. I did want to bring up the tarot card. So please. I know that every episode we have with within the Chariot season, I pull a tarot card. Today, 2 flew out. I was so curious what was going to come through today for you.
Me too.
Yeah, so it's interesting because the first one that came out, which I think this really kind of speaks to, well, you can share like your own journey and path with this, but also kind of like the call and the invitation too for the collective. The 4 of Pentacles reversed. It's important that it's reversed though. So the 4 of Pentacles is a space card, a boundary, body boundary in particular card. Body boundary, space around the body. Typically, like in more like older traditional ways of viewing this card, it can be connected to greed or holding on to money, although I feel like that's not actually the truth of this card. This card is really about, because the pentacles are about the body, the energy and sacred work and connection to the mundane world, and this exchange that we have with soul expression through physical embodiment, which I feel like we've been taught has been a really big theme today. And so typically upright, this card is saying my physical vessel actually needs space. Like I need to put up the do not disturb sign so that I can tune in, so that I can reconnect with myself. The reversal of this card though is like, I've done that work and now I filled up my cup on that end and it's time for me to come out. It's time for me to come back, get out of the cave and come back into the world, but in a way that is like, this is me. This is me. So it's a shift in seasons. And we have those seasons, like you're saying, we have these seasons. The second card that came out is the moon card.
Oh, wow. All right.
Luna, which also I feel like connects with you and a lot of the work that you've been doing, and just also even tuning into like your design and all of that. We've talked about the importance of the moon, right? The moon, obviously, a symbol of like intuition, dreams, unconscious. The moon card is ruled by Pisces. We're in Pisces season currently, when the time we're recording this, connected to Neptune. So it's very like watery, kind of nebulous, dreamy, liminal. And we're deeply in these like waves, these currents in the pool. There's the pool of water here, connecting to the subconscious, the unconscious mind, and also the body through that. The moon in mundane astrology is connected to the body, by the way, too.
Wow.
And the fact that Pisces is the end of the astrological year is significant because the moon card is also about something ending. There's an ending here too.
Yeah.
And usually has something to do with drawing whatever has been in the depths of the ocean and like bringing it forward to the illumination of the moon and the path to higher consciousness. And the thing that I love too is in a lot of cards in the original depictions, you have a dog and a wolf howling at the moon. And so it's like this tame aspect of us and then the wild aspect of us, right? Bringing those aspects together. And there's the shadowy bits, the shadowy side of the moon, which is like, it can also represent our fears and our illusions. And we can feel uncertain at times. It could be scary to be in the moon card, but it's asking us to trust in the unknown, to trust in ourselves and our bodies, to lay back on the ocean, our backs on the ocean, allow the water to carry us and float, guided by the moonlight, to reconnect with the lunar cycles, attuned to that divine power, and very much connected with the divine feminine in that guidance and love and ability to dive deep. So I feel like, wow, this is Tuesday in a card.
Wow. Oh my goodness. That's
Yeah.
amazing. And I think in our very last mentoring session, I think you pulled the moon card at the time before that too. So it's just really, really up. You know what I want to, the first card, the Four of Pentacles reversed, it just feels so also appropriate. This morning, I was reminded, or I guess what came to me was the goddess Chinnamasta. And I don't know if you know about her, but the story is that she's walking with her handmaidens slash kind of little goddesses, and they're hungry. And she's like, we'll be back soon. I'll feed you soon. And they kind of keep at her. They're hungry. They want to eat. And so she kind of puts them off for a while. And then eventually they're just so hungry. And she's like, fine. And so she cuts off her own head and she feeds them with her blood. So if you see images of Chinnamasta, she's like, it's her maidens are looking up and there's like blood going into their mouth and she's holding her own head. And it looks gruesome, right? If you don't understand the story, it looks gruesome. But she's feeding them from her essence, but she's also feeding herself.
Wow.
Right. And so like they are getting from her body and from her essence, but she is also nourishing herself at the same time. And of course, because she's a goddess, like that's not the end of the story. She puts her head back on and keeps going. You know what I mean? It's not like this horrible self-sacrificial woman, give all you have and then die. It's actually, I can give you from me. And that nurtures me. And then I can keep going. And so that giving from the body, I've often had an image when I think about my particular work, because so much of my story and my work is like, I'm giving my essence in these offerings. That's what I'm offering here. And so when it is from my body, and so that Four of Pentacles reverse, that idea of like, I have gone into my body, that period of time of like really coming back into myself, done that, might do it again. But right now it's the opposite. Actually, it's like to give of my body feels really appropriate. So that feels like the perfect card. And of course, the moon card, I mean, I feel like Venessa working with you, like I just going deeper and deeper. Like it's just like those depths, they ain't got nothing on what we're doing. Like that's where we're going. So yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I just feel like part of the blessing of just not knowing and not seeing out into the future is that it allows us, being in that unknowing, being in the moon, allows us the ability to go deeper because we just don't know, and that's okay. Like it's actually part of the formula to not know and to be with the mystery, and that is divine feminine goddess. So many through lines there. And also the piece of the archetypes of the tarot and the Fool's Journey. It's a story, it's a journey. And so it's a series of contractions and expansions.
Mm-hmm.
So like when we look at the card right before the moon, it's the Star card, which is sort of this expansion, like kind of coming out, healing, showing one's light, renewal, hope, and faith. The card before the Star was the Tower card. That's like everything's kind of like coming down, right?
Wow.
A period of destruction and turmoil. So it's just interesting to see these different flavors of contractions, expansions, and how necessary they are, right? So I feel not that the moon has to feel super contractive. That's not what I'm saying, but energetically, it's turning inward. Right. And so I think that's what you are also inviting is this journey of inward into outward expression, like knowing thyself, knowing goddess and divine feminine, and then being able to bring that light out to others. And so I'm really excited for you to share that with the world.
Thank you. Me too. And I know we're wrapping up, but just one last thing is I'm just aware, even as you talked about that journey, I just want to say out loud how good it has been to be accompanied by you. It's like, it's really been important. Like, obviously all of this is work that only we can do, right? You can't make me do the work and I can't make anyone else do the work, but to be accompanied is really special. And so that's just been such a gift of our time together. And then a gift I hope to turn around and give to the women that I'm working with. I will accompany you. That is what's on offer. I won't do it for you, but I'm not scared and I will accompany you.
And thank you for reflecting that back I have mentorships, but I have my own mentors too. Like I believe so deeply in mentorship and being reflections for one another, but not just reflections, like actually being able to hold a space, hold a container. And you do so graciously with such love and care. And also like as deep and, you're going to be looking at your dark bits and the wounds, but Tuesday has such a beautiful field of also play infused in her beingness that it makes it delightful to do so.
100%. Look, like 100%. We're going to dance all the time. We're going to dance. We're going to laugh. We're going to sing, like, because that is the way of the feminine. It's like you do the thing, you do the hard stuff, and then you get up and keep going and you laugh with your sisters. Like, it's just like that is what it is to be doing this. So, yeah.
Well, Tuesday, where can folks find you, your information, and all about Luminosity, your upcoming offering?
Great. So you can go to our website. My company name is findtheoutside.com. And then if you go to courses, Luminosity's right there. And then you can go to coaching to find out more about coaching with me. And then we'll have the records available there on the coaching page as well. So findtheoutside.com, coaching or courses is one place to find me. And then Instagram seems to be the place that people are also finding me. So that's at Tues, Tues Rivera, Rivera. So at Tues Rivera is the place where I'm putting up a lot of things too. So
perfect. And of course, I'm going to have all of the links in the show notes. So if you just want to scroll on down and click there. And of course, Tuesday, the final question that I love to ask.
Right.
Is what is currently feeding your wild, whether that's body, mind, spirit, and anything else you'd like to share too. What's on the horizon for you?
I just love the word wild. I just love that word. It's just like, you really did something by, like just like pulling it into what you're doing. So feeding my wild always, always, always is going into the woods where I am, just like actually being with the wild and like just noticing, like when you have your place in nature, like you notice what changes over the seasons, like you just like, that place is just heaven for me to be there and like to feel myself as part of it and to give back to it and lay down tobacco or whatever it is I'm doing. Being in there reminds me that I'm an animal. I'm an animal. I have an animal body that responds to the seasons and the ground and the air and the water. And so like just being there feeds my wild. And then dancing. There used to be a time when I might have been 1 minute late to this podcast because I was coming on from another call. I was 1 minute late to this podcast because I was dancing right before I got on here, And so like it's just being in my body and moving my body. And like, I don't think there's anything better than dancing at this point. That makes me feel more connected to myself as a child of goddess, as an energetic being, as a body, as an animal, like dancing all day long.
Oof. Oh, I'm feeling that. Right now, sometimes I feel like I hear questions from the actual audience, right? Like it's coming through. And one question that was coming through is like, man, I want to take a look at her playlists. And so I don't know if you have like any playlist within your program,
Oh, yeah. So for sure, I love giving out playlists. So within the program, we will have a playlist by goddess. We will have a playlist by like activity, like if you want to be sensual or if you want to shake your body. So yes, playlists are a big part of it. And I'm figuring out right now how the people outside of the Luminosity cohort, I'm figuring out how we'll all be connected because there's a large group of women and they provide songs too. So right now it's just
amazing.
a WhatsApp group, but like they give songs and like I add them to the playlist. Like music is a big part of it for sure.
Love it. So fun. Well, Tuesday, this comes to the end of our conversation today, and so much to just receive and integrate and swirly. I feel it swirling within me and awakening, reawakening that connection. Even I feel like so many of us need reminders day to day around connecting with the body, connecting with goddess, divine feminine, And so thank you for being a steward for us today in this way. And I'm so honored to be in the same space as you.
Me too, Vanessa. Thank you so much. I was just thinking how much my own journey has benefited from what I experience as your deep courage to bring this into the world in the ways that you do. Like, I'm just like, how does she do that? Like, I want to know her story. I want to know how you knew to bring this to people and into the world, because it's just kind of a constant on ramp to me to be more courageous and shine my light brighter. So just thank you for having me so much.
Oh, Tuesday, thank you. All right, everybody, go forth and move that body.
That's right.